Very good. All right, welcome to you all. It is now 5:30 and time to call our Yuma County Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for today, March 25th, to order. First item on the agenda is to ask Heidi if she will verify that we have a quorum.
Present.
Present.
Here?
Present. Here.
Present.
Here.
Very good, thank you. Now, if you would all stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we continue with tonight's agenda, some housekeeping I need to read. If you have parked in the rear gated employee parking lot, please move your vehicle to the north parking lot to avoid having your car locked in. There is no public egress from the hallway to the south parking lot. The only public entry to the building is from the north entrance. All access to the DDS building is limited to staff only as a security precaution. If you wish to speak tonight, please sign in at the sign-up sheet and the table by the rear door. And if you do speak tonight, when you speak at the podium, state your name and address clearly for the record. When you speak, address the chairman only. Do not speak to the audience or to staff. If questions need to be asked, we will direct those for you. If you have handouts to give during your presentation, give those to staff so that they can distribute them to the commissioners. Restrooms and water fountains or drinking fountains are just down the hallway behind us, and feel free to use those facilities as needed. And there's no food or beverages other than water in the meeting room at any time, please. Now we'll move into tonight's agenda. Item number 3 on tonight's agenda is approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting minutes of February 25th, 2025. Commissioner Van Wy.
I second that.
There's a motion by Commissioner Van Wy with a second by Commissioner Mosqueda to approve the minutes.
You're getting better.
To approve the minutes of our regularly scheduled meeting of February 25th, 2025 as published. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes stand approved. Next item on tonight's agenda, item number 4, is rezoning case number 25-02. Who will be making the presentation tonight?
Richard Munguia, Senior Planner.
Richard, go ahead, please.
Chairman,
Excuse me, yes.
I need to recuse myself from case number 2502. I'm currently employed by the agent for the owner.
That the record show that Commissioner Mulhern has declared a conflict of interest and will not participate in discussion or action on item number 4, rezoning case number 25-02. Now back to you, Richard.
All right. So the request for this rezoning is to rezone a 10.1357 parcel from rural area 10-acre minimum to suburban site built 2-acre minimum. The location of this is County 17th Street and Avenue A and a quarter, located in the Yuma Mesa planning area. And the intent of this is to split the property into 5 parcels. This is the subject property. Properties to the north are zoned SR2, to the east is RA10. To the south, there's both RA10 and SSB2, and to the west is SR3. The subject parcel is outlined right here in red. It is currently undeveloped with access off of County 17th Street, which is also undeveloped. This is a site plan that was provided by the applicant. Staff did receive 2 comments in opposition at the time of the staff report and later received an email in opposition from the Arizona Attorney General, which came after the printing of the staff report, and additionally 2 emails came in as well from neighbors. According to the development evaluation checklist, the proposal as it stands received a 235. That score states that the proposal should likely be denied. That score is considered a low score based on certain things that impact that score, and it is being impacted by being located within the noise contours, being considered prime farmland by the USDA. No road improvements from County 17th Street were being proposed at the time of the staff report, and an increase in PM10 due to driving over the unimproved roads. If the applicant proposes or agrees to road improvements along County 17th as recommended, that could change the score from low to moderate. The applicant has also requested that the commission take no action today and postpone this meeting until April 22nd. And that concludes my report.
Okay,
We could have started with that one.
Focus that first.
all right. So we posted that we would have a public hearing today. We would have to have the public hearing as advertised. Is that correct, Maggie?
Correct.
And is the commission obligated to take no action if we choose?
Well, Mr. Chairman, the applicant has requested a continuance. The action would be to continue the case until the April meeting.
Okay, so anyone who went out of their way to attend tonight's meeting would have to come back when it's continued if they want to be present for any argument.
Mr. Chairman, what we could do is take their comments and then include the minutes of tonight's meeting with next month's agenda.
Okay,
So they would not have to come back.
very good. Do any commissioners have questions of staff? If not, this is a public hearing and we will take public comment tonight. Is there anyone in the public would like to speak concerning this rezoning case number 25-02? Everyone must have known that it was going to be continued. Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing portion of the meeting and come back to commissioners for discussion and action.
Chairman, I move that we postpone, continue this case to next month.
There is a motion by Commissioner Van Wy with a second by Commissioner Allen to postpone this meeting or continue this hearing until next month's meeting date,
April 22nd at 5:30 p.m.
April 22nd at 5:30 p.m.
Thanks, Maggie.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item is continued to next meeting. Next item on tonight's agenda, item number 5, minor amendment case number 25-01. And this again is Richard as our staff person.
Correct. Could we also please open RZ 2504, the next item?
Okay, item number 6 on tonight's agenda is rezoning case number 25-04, connected to the minor amendment case 25-01. We'll open that item as well, and staff member Richard will give us his update.
All right, Richard Munguia, Senior Planner. So this minor amendment is to change the land use designation of a parcel approximately 11.36 acres from agricultural/rural preservation to agriculture/rural residential. The location of this is 7240 South Avenue 40E in Welton. It's located in the Dome Valley/Welton planning area. And the intent of this is to bring the property into compliance with an appropriate zoning district so that they could build a home. So the underlying land use here is agriculture, rural preservation, and all adjacent portions of the property. Further to the west, the land use is open space and recreational resources. The applicant is requesting to change the land use to rural agriculture, rural preservation in order to bring the property into compliance so they can construct a home. Subject property is right here outlined in blue. It is an 11.36 acre parcel that's currently undeveloped and has access off of 40E. The applicant did not provide a site plan. Staff didn't receive any comments for or against this proposal, and staff is recommending approval of this request. For rezoning case number 2504, this request is to rezone an 11.36 acre parcel from rural area 40 acre minimum to rural area 10 acre minimum. It's located 7240 South Avenue 40E in Welton, and it's located in the Dome Valley/Welton planning area. This here is the subject property. All the adjacent property is residentially zoned. Oh, that is not the right map. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so the subject property is here outlined in blue. The subject property, it's currently undeveloped as we stated in the minor amendment. Staff didn't receive any comments for or against this proposal. Staff is recommending approval, subject to the conditions, performance conditions shown on the screen here, and to for the schedule for development. And we will get a better picture shortly.
And is that, are you finished with your report?
Correct.
Yes. All right. Do any commissioners have questions of staff regarding either the minor amendment case 25-01 or rezoning case 25-04?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner McDermott.
what is the proposed use of this parcel?
The applicant wants to build a home. Right now, it doesn't meet the minimum 40 acres. So they're requesting to rezone it to a 10 acre minimum.
So it will just have one house?
Correct.
Any other commissioners have questions of staff? If not, we'll open the public hearing portion of the meeting tonight. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak concerning minor amendment case 25-01 or rezoning case 25-04?
Hello, Mr. Chairman, my name is Jake Ferris. I'm actually not Mr. Catron. I gave consent to Richard here. He unfortunately, due to health complications, was unable to attend the meeting. I'm his real estate agent in this transaction. To answer Ms. McDermott's question is, the property is currently under escrow to transfer ownership. The new buyer has the intent to develop a single-family residence on the property, but it's 11 acres and it's zoned RA 40, so we're hoping it won't be terribly difficult to zone it to RA 10, being in closer relation to 10 acres opposed to 40.
Did you remember to give us your address for the record?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, currently right now,
Yeah.
my current address, 917 South 9th Avenue.
All right, we need that for the record. You're the speaker.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you're the agent for the owner.
Yes, sir.
Or the new buyer wants to build a house.
Correct, and I'm the agent for the buyer as well.
Any commissioners have questions of this agent? If not, if we have any questions, we'll call you back up.
Very good, thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience tonight here to speak concerning minor amendment case 2501 or rezoning case 25-04? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing portion of the meeting. We'll come back to commissioners for a discussion and action on the minor amendment case 25-01.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Van Wyk.
I move that we approve minor amendment case number 25-01 as presented by staff.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Van Wy with a second by Commissioner McDermott to recommend approval of minor amendment case number 25-01 as presented by staff. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. And now for rezoning case number 25-04.
Chairman, I move that we recommend approval of rezoning case number 25-04 as presented by staff.
Second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Van Wy with a second by Commissioner Mosqueda to approve rezoning, recommend approval of rezoning case 25-04 as presented by staff. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Recommendation was unanimous. We'll move to item number 7 on tonight's agenda. This is rezoning case number 25-05, and tonight's presenter from staff is,
Jesus Carrillo.
I won't try that again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This request is to rezone a parcel 45 gross acres in size from rural area 10 acres minimum to low density residential 6,000 square feet minimum. Property is located in the Foothills planning area, located on the north side of North Frontage Road between Avenue 15E, 15.5E and Avenue 16E in Yuma. The intent is to develop residential subdivision with lots of at least 6,000 square feet in size. This is the zoning map. The property is in the crosshatch, parcel number 3. Parcels surrounded it are currently zoned RA10 and RA40. Parcels to the east is located the Telegraph Pass. And this is the aerial view of the your property. It's outlined in blue. No comments or questions have been received by staff from any residents. Staff recommends denial of rezoning case number 2505. If the Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval, staff suggests attaching the following conditions. Within 60 days of approval by the Board of Supervisors, the owner agents shall record a navigation and infrastructure and the schedule for development disclosure statements. And for the schedule for development, within 10 years of Board of Supervisor approval, the filing and approval of the tentative map and the subdivision of parcel 188-12003 into 6 or more lots shall be completed with traffic impact analysis, shall be completed in accordance with Yuma County Public Works Standards, Volumes 4, Section 4.5, during the tentative map review. Number 2, within 10 years of Board of Supervisor approval, all improvements required by the TI shall be completed in time frame specified by the traffic impact analysis. Mr. Chairman, that concludes that presentation, and the applicants are present.
Thank you. Any commissioners have questions of staff? Commissioner McDermott?
Yeah, this is 45 acres that will go to, or that wants to go to residential 6,000. How many structures would that be?
That can potentially be 269 dwellings.
Excuse me?
269.
109?
200. 269.
Wow. Thank you.
Any other commissioners have questions of staff at this time?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Van
From what I
Wyk.
understand,
2005. They never complied with discussion for development. It's being listed on the staff report on page 1 and 2.
Mr. Chairman. On the map, if you could put the map back up, please. $269 homes. That's just crazy. But my bigger problem is the drainage. There are tremendous drainage problems out there in the foothills. There are tremendous road problems. That's just a humongous amount of traffic and trips and all the rest. But while the blue on the map is where the map thinks the water is going to go, Mother Nature doesn't often listen to that. And I would expect quite a bit of flood protection and drainage and things that would need to be done if indeed it is improved for this change. Um, has that been discussed with the applicant?
I'll refer that question to the applicant, but I'm aware, I'm pretty sure he's aware that the property is in the floodplain. And that will be something that will be reviewed. If it gets approved, it will be reviewed during the subdivision.
Okay, so
And in response,
Yeah, go ahead.
Commissioner
in
Dunn.
response to Vice Chairman question, staff recommends denial of this request and is listed on the staff report on page 5. Staff recommends denial of this request based on not being in compliance with the following policies and priorities outlined in the comprehensive plan for the Foothills Planning Area. F6, residential development shall not outspace the development of infrastructure to support it. And F8, the impact on water supply and sewage treatment system will be specifically analyzed and taken into when it consider any future land use designation. This area is not currently being served by any public, private utility company.
And does the applicant have a plan in place for that? Obviously, we're gonna find out in a few minutes, but, so let's do that.
Yes, I think it'd be appropriate to hear from the applicant, because, I mean, I'm sure that when this was approved back in 2005 to go R16, there was no sewer service or water service out there at that time. So those things haven't changed, but we're just looking at them differently, perhaps.
Mr.
Maggie.
Chairman, back in 2005, staff also recommended denial of the case.
At least you're consistent, huh?
And was it you as well, Mike?
Why was I not surprised that that was the case? Thank you, Maggie.
You're
Would ask the applicant if they would like to come up and speak at this point. Uh-oh.
Here we go.
Good evening, Doug Nichols, Core Engineering Group, 200 East 16th Street, Suite 150, Yuma, Arizona. Chairman and Commissioners, thank you. These are great questions and things that the reason why things didn't get moved forward 20 years ago. It takes time, it takes money, and the right economic environment to do an investment like this. This isn't going to be your usual subdivision because of where it's located. It's got unique features with what surrounds it. It does have a wash that impacts. We're never going to hit anywhere near the maximum allowed by the zoning, because even some of our early looks at the property, you lose a significant amount of acreage to that wash, and then you do have to make sure you've addressed all the other drainage characteristics. Things like water and sewer take time and money to figure that out. That is what civil engineers do, so that's why we're here today. And the reason why we asked for a 10-year horizon instead of the traditional 2 to 5 years, because this is going to take a while. It's going to take some time to figure out the financial model, but no one wants to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars and not know they can build what they are expecting to build or what they're planning to build. And so we're definitely planning on meeting all the drainage considerations. We're not interested in having houses wash away. That's bad for business. And the water and sewer has to get addressed. And that could be, very well be extension of plan limits, could be package plants, but either way, it's going to be meeting ADUQ guidelines and safe water production. So we're confident we can meet the engineering challenges. We just need to make sure we've got the ability to do what the owner wants to do on the property. So if there's any questions or anything else I can answer, I'd be happy to do that.
Let me see if I followed you, what you went along. There's problems with the property because of its elevations, and it's at the base of mountain, partially on the mountain. So you know you're not going to be able to build one house every 6,000 square
Right.
feet.
Correct.
But that part of the land that is usable, you want to maximize the number of homes you can build on the usable parts, because much of the land is going to have to be for recreational purposes and for beauty.
And primarily drainage.
Drainage.
But correct, that as development goes, you need to make sure you've got the right densities to make it financially feasible.
That's what I thought. Other commissioners have questions? Commissioner
Just
McDermott.
one more, not to beat it to death, but this seems pretty speculative. In 2005, it was speculative, and in 2025, it still sounds pretty speculative to change the zoning on it. The problem I have is once the zoning is changed, he can turn around and sell it, and you know, we may have a totally different look at it, and we've already changed the zoning, and I'm reluctant to do that.
But let me, Commissioner McDermott, if somebody, regardless of who owns it, the number of homes that could be built wouldn't change based on the new owner. So, I mean, we face this so many times, right? That we have a piece of property that we need to get rezoned so people will spend some money to see if they can develop it. But they don't want to start spending the money if they can't get residential zoning, right? It's the cart before the horse, and we struggle with it every time. But so I understand your concern, but I don't think that who owned it would change even if the guy were to sell it. But I understand the guy who owns this thing, he's quite a land baron. He just holds on to land for 20, 30, 40 years.
Mr. Chairman,
Comment on that.
Doug, as far as that goes, from what I'm understanding, this is a local owner.
It is a local
And
owner.
he's owned it for how many years?
25 years, I believe.
And-
Mr. Rush, 25 years? Sure. Yeah.
And so, obviously, your intention is to eventually develop it.
Correct.
Do you have a ballpark figure of how many homes you think you could put on there?
We have not laid anything preliminarily out. The first layout we did was medium density, and that doesn't apply to this layout. So I don't have that together. The other thing is I'm a little bit hesitant to give a client a number when there are so many issues like the drainage and that we need to define. So I don't have that.
Have you thought about a little bit bigger lots?
We've talked about those as options. You know, at this point where the market is, and if you start looking at, and you're all very familiar, so I apologize if I'm preaching to the choir, but you know, the housing discussion nationally and particularly at the state level is looking for more opportunity to create housing. This being a unique parcel, I think kind of will counteract. I mean, we're talking, Texas just approved maximum lot size mandated at 1,400 square feet. If the state of Arizona goes to that, 6,000 will be the large lots. So there's a lot of things we can talk about, but this is where the applicant kind of felt that they could make the project work with the limited information we currently have.
Any other commissioners have questions of the agent for the applicant? If not, we'll call you back up if we need more questions answered.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll open the public hearing portion of the meeting now and ask if there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak concerning this rezoning case 24-05. Either for or against. Yes, come on forward.
Mr. Chairman, good evening. Aaron Silly, my APN number is 728-07001. My only concern with this is access directly up Telegraph Pass. That's a huge draw for the people that are out there, and if we can work with the applicant to make sure that that's maintained, would be a great asset to the foothills. As well as I believe this should be, or should have been sent in as also a major amendment. My understanding of a major amendment is if you increase total housing capacity by 125 units. Right now it's RA10, so they can only put 4 houses on it. So if they go anything over 130 houses, they would need to be a major amendment process. I understand that the lot is not completely buildable, and if that's being taken into consideration, that's understandable. But I think we need to kind of have that answered first, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anything there that staff would like to address?
Yeah,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, the
Yes.
property is designated for medium-density residential. It does not trigger an amendment to the comprehensive plan.
All right, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Anyone else in tonight's audience who would like to speak concerning this rezoning case, 25-05? Seeing no one, we will close the public hearing portion of the meeting and come back to commissioners for discussion and action.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to be held on the record for this. That is a one person's property. I always have believed that if it's their property, they should better do what they can do within legal ramifications, legal limits. The road heading up to Telegraph Pass, that's not going to be affected because whatever is privately owned is privately owned. So you see what I'm saying? So I don't believe that will be impacted. Now, some of the areas where they want to park might be impacted, but they're also parking on this gentleman's property. So, you know, I'm for it.
Any other Commissioner McDermott?
Yeah, just looking at the recommendation of staff, denial of the request based on not being in compliance with the following policies and priorities outlined in the comprehensive plan for the Foothill planning area. Residential development should not outpace the development of infrastructure to support it. And the impact on the water supply and sewage treatment systems will be specifically analyzed for any future land use designation.
Thank you for sharing that, Commissioner McDermott. Any other Commissioner Van Ryn?
But we will never know that if we don't give the applicant the possibility to look into it. And for those reasons, I move that we approve rezoning case number 25-05 as presented by staff.
I'll second that.
Who seconded it? Yeah, okay. The motion is by Commissioner Van Wy with a second by Commissioner Allen to recommend approval of rezoning case number 25-05 as presented by staff. Any discussion among commissioners? If not, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, can we get a roll call?
Roll call vote, please.
Nay.
Nay. Yes.
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 Nay.
Yes.
Motion passed. The vote was what, 5-3? Is that what, 5-3? Very good. We'll move on to item number 8 now. Minor amendment case 25-02. Staff presentation by,
Mr. Chairman, can you also open item number 9?
I certainly will. We'll open item number 10. Text amendment
No, number 9.
9, rezoning case number 25-06. And so the two are related, so it'll be minor amendment case 25-02 and rezoning case number 25-06.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jesus Carrillo, presenting minor amendment case number 2501. The request is to change the land use designation of a parcel approximately 11.36 acres in size from agricultural rural preservation to, no, wrong
That's the
presentation.
wrong one.
I've seen that one before.
I was like,
Groundhog.
Let us continue it again.
this is a request to change the land use designation of a parcel 50 gross acres in size for rural dense residential to ranchero residential. The property is located in the Yuma Mesa planning area, located on the east side of Araby Road, also known as State Route 185, between County 13th Street and County 13.5 Street in Yuma. The intent is to rezone the subject parcel to suburban site built 1 acre minimum. This is the vicinity map, the land use map. The property is parcel number 5 with the crosshatch. Everything surrounded is currently designated as a rural dense residential. This is the aerial imagery of outline. The property is outlined in blue. Staff received 11 letters and 2 petitions signed by 34 residents in opposition to the request for a total of 45. There are several duplicates. 5 letters within the 200-foot notification area. We also received comment from NCAS against this proposal and also received comments from ADOT. Staff recommends denial of minor amendment case number 2502 on the basis that the proposed amendment is not consistent with the density and intensities guidelines for the BMGR buffer area. The amendment does not represent an overall improvement to the plan and is solely for the good or benefit of this property owner. And 3, the amendment does not address an oversight, inconsistency, or inequity. Moving on to rezoning case 2506. This request is to rezone a parcel 50 gross acres in size from suburban site built 2 acres minimum to suburban site built 1 acre minimum. Property is located in the Yuma Mesa, and the intent is to create parcels of 1 acre in size for site built residents. This is the zoning map. Properties to the north and west are currently zoned RA10, and properties to the east and south are currently zoned SR2 and SSB2, and they're all 2 acres and 5 acres properties. This is the aerial imagery. Property is outlined in blue. And this is the site plan that was submitted by the applicant. Same thing, staff received 11 letters and 2 petitions signed by 34 residents in opposition to the request for a total of 45, several duplicates, 5 letters within the 200-foot notification area. Same comments were received by MCAS and in opposition in ADOT. Staff recommends denial of rezoning case 2506 based on the request not being within the ranges of identified uses, densities, intensity of the BMGR buffer area. If the planning commission recommends approval, staff suggests the following performance conditions and a schedule for development. Within 60 days of approval by the board of supervisors, the owner or agent shall record an infrastructure, a range, and a schedule for development disclosure statements. And for the schedule for development, within 10 years of board supervisor approval, the filing and approval of tentative map as a subdivision of parcel 187-21005 into 6 or more lots shall be completed. That concludes staff presentation. And the applicants are present.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Any commissioners have questions of staff?
I tried to get in there today. It's impossible.
Wasn't easy access, huh? All right, any other commissioners have questions? If not, we'll ask the applicant if he would like to make a presentation at this time. The big guns.
Good evening, Barry Olson, 350 West 16th Street, Suite 407 in Yuma. I've been trying to figure out the best way to approach this because in looking at the staff report, there's a lot of emphasis on the buffer areas around the Buriram-Goldwater Range. And I've been doing this long enough to know that when those buffers were put in place, the reason that they were put in place was basically a concern that at that time, the state was going to impose buffers on Yuma County. And so this all started out on the other side of the Gila Mountains, east of Telegraph Pass, where this 2 acre buffer, well, 5 acre buffer in the first half mile from the range, and the next half mile 2 acre buffer came into effect. But it was, you know, at that time, it was a compromise that the county came up with to keep the state from dictating to Yuma County how we planned around the Buriram-Goldwater Range. So with respect to this property, you know, I think we can all recognize Yuma County continues to develop. San Luis, Somerton, Yuma, and in particular, the Mesa has had quite a bit of growth. And if you look just to the north of this property, you have that area, that Hall Development and quite a few other developers have been developing at a pretty brisk pace given what's going on in the housing market in Yuma. So when you get into the analysis of this on the plan amendment process, I've always had issue with how this negatively impacts the range. If you basically look, we've got a 2+ mile area from Foothills Boulevard to County 15th that abuts right up against the range where we have extremely dense housing. So in looking at the plan amendment issue of this, to argue, I mean, we've always had this, I understand and recognize 20 to 25 years of this buffer in place, but that's why we have the plan amendment process, is to look at this from time to time to determine whether this is in the best interest of Yuma County. And I would contend that this particular area should be re-examined, and we should come up with something that isn't as restrictive as a 5-acre buffer for the first half mile and a 2-acre buffer for the next half mile. If you look around this area, again to the north, and then I'll just walk over and point. Northwest of this property, within less than a quarter of a mile, you already have 6,000 to 8,000, I think it's 8,000 square foot lots over there. And so that's the examination I'm asking this commission to look at, is does it make sense to continue to have this 2-acre buffer for the second half mile from the Barry M. Goldwater range? As recognized by staff and the staff reports, this area is not in a high noise decibel area, and it's not in an accident potential zone. If you look at the statutes that were put in place by the legislature in the late 1990s, it was designed to protect or limit development in high accident potential areas and high noise zone areas. This is not that, as evidenced by what you see to the immediate northwest. You also have that the city of Yuma recently rezoned some property that's just outside this map within a quarter of a mile to also allow dense development. So that's what we're asking to do. Rather, and what we're trying to establish here is a transition area in the buffer zone. We have the 5-acre for the first half mile, and we believe that there are areas, in particular this area of the county, where something less than 2 acres should be examined. And that's why we've come up with, the principle of this project is Elliott Homes. They've built homes in Yuma, they've been around for a while, they know our market. They also know that not everybody can do a 2-acre home site. So in looking at this particular 50 acres, what Elliott's looking to do is to come up with a concept where rather than having 2 acres, it'd be 1 acre that would be established with paved roads, on-site septic, and on-site well. Now, I know that there were some concerns that I just saw this evening that staff presented from some of the neighbors about the well capacity in that area. You know, I don't know if there's any particular study that I've seen out there that shows that there's a shortage of water in that area. There's those center pivots that we all know to the south of this, where they're pulling quite a bit of water at, 100 to 200 feet. And I know that the city of San Luis has looked at that aquifer area, and the studies that have been provided by Jim Davey and Associates show that there's millions of gallons of acre feet in that aquifer. So I don't believe that we've got a water issue out there. But again, the first part of this is the land use component. Second part's the rezoning. And it kind of falls hand in hand with the land use amendment is, okay, what makes the most sense for this area? And again, this is an area that's tucked up in the corner of the range. It's not farther out as you've seen closer to County 15th Street. And in all the time I've been doing this, I've yet to have anybody tell me that that area that's developed right up to the Barry M. Goldwater range from County 15th back to Foothills has ever had a negative impact on the range. And the other problem I have with the buffer zone is, some of you may be aware, there's a study going on, the city of Yuma put a commission together, I'm on it. Several members of the county are on it. And it's been examining whether or not we should expand some of the AQ's areas. But all of these discussions have been having place. But the one thing that I've taken out of this that I did not know when this was put in 20 or 25 years ago is that Yuma, this range is the only range where the buffer is outside the range on private land where there is private land versus inside the range, which is where buffers have been established in other ranges around the country. And this is one of the biggest ranges in the country. But yet, Yuma County's had to subsidize this range to the detriment of the private property owners that are within a mile of the range. And I think that's where the inequity and unjustness comes in. And that's why, again, we have this plan amendment process and the rezoning process to look at this, in particular with what's going on in the residential marketplace in this community. Because, folks, at some point, we're actually, there's a concern that we're getting close to running out of land. And the only other place to, unless the state and the federal government start letting loose of some of these large tracts of property, where else are we going to go to develop? We've been pretty good about protecting our farmland and keeping that part of our economy intact. But unless we come up with some other areas to develop and a fair compromise around the range, we're going to be confronted with the issue of where else do we grow? You know, again, there's a lot to be said about this, but I just wanted to make those points. Glad to address any particular points that any of the commission might have.
Yeah, very, excuse me.
Commissioner Van Wyk.
You talked about water and wells, and I didn't see it in here. Are you planning, is the developer wanting to put a well per lot or have an actual water company?
Well, at this point, our concept was to do a well for each lot, but if it ended up being that it might be more feasible and economical to look at a private water system, that's something I think we could look at. Those have had problems in Yuma County. We have some of those around, and you know, they get to be a little bit more difficult because we have some of these that have gotten set up, and then as ownership changes, you get into maintenance issues and who's going to maintain them, and they're too small where they're not governed by like a public utility. They're almost privately run. You know, some of you that have been on this commission for a while are aware of those water companies we have in Yuma. And it seems like somebody always gets left kind of holding the bag on how to operate those private water companies, and you know, having to figure out what you have to file with the state.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner McDermott.
I've designed a lot of these systems in the past. It's not a water quantity problem necessarily. It's a water quality problem. And certainly for housing and people who want lawns and people who want vegetation and stuff like that, water quality is the bigger problem than the water quantity. It just seems illogical to me that I'm assuming that a lot of the area around here is on city water.
Well, there's the subdivision, I know to the northwest is on city water, and that there's areas, I think the city boundary's just probably about a quarter of a mile to the west and to the north.
Yeah, I just, the size of the properties, I mean, we have so many parcels for sale all over the mesa that are set up this way. And people find that they're impractical pretty quickly. But it just seems like an inappropriate location considering the stuff that's around it. It's very odd to me to be putting in that type of a development in that particular location.
If I may follow up on Ms. McDermott's comments, you know, I'm readily aware that we've had a lot of 2-acre development in Yuma, but you know, a large part of that is basically because of the subdivision regulations and the fact that it's in the county. And once you get, you can do, if you have 10 acres and you divide it into 5 2-acre lots, you don't have to go through the subdivision process because it's not economical to actually do a formal subdivision. That's why we've had so many of these over the years. They started off, when I first started coming before this commission, we had what we always called those wildcat subdivisions. Then the county, and through staff, Maggie's was here when all of that started, came up with different requirements that address many of the dust control pavement needs. So I think we've come up with a happy compromise. But the problem with it is you still have a 2-acre lot, and those are difficult to maintain, and we recognize that. That's why we thought, well, in 1-acre lots, really, until this project, you haven't seen them because you run into the same problem as, okay, you either have the buffer zone or you've got economics involved, but here it is, you have a well-known developer that's willing to put this project together and step forward to address an alternative to the marketplace. Because right now, you know, you don't have a 1-acre product that I've seen.
Yes, Mr. Olson, have you seen, do you have a copy of the letter that the Attorney General's office sent to staff?
I haven't seen that.
Was it regarding ARS 28-48 or 8481, which says that statute specifically prohibits any single-family residential construction within
That's not for this case.
noise zone?
That's not for this case.
Yeah, that's for another
Yeah,
case.
but right, it's not for this case, but we always get these things from the military telling us that it's against state statute to, I mean, I think we just had it in one of those 5-acre zones a couple of months ago, one of those 5-acre zones where half a mile from the military base, and then we were told by law we couldn't, and the supervisors didn't rezone the property. But do you know of any state statutes that would be implicated if we did not follow the comprehensive plan?
No, and I know exactly what statute you're talking about because it's referenced in the MCAS's letter refers to the statute. And that statute's one of those statutes that was passed in the late 1990s, but it talks about high accident potential zones, high noise zones, and that's where there's restrictions for zoning, the placement of schools, stuff that makes sense, the stuff that we see around the actual base. And I understand that, but there was never anything in the statute that addressed the buffer around the Barium Goldwater Range. And it goes back to, because this came up at this commission that I'm on, because everyone started asking, where did this come from? I was looking around, I thought, I've been doing this too long, because I remember exactly what it was. Is we, at that time, the governor's office had pretty much told the county and the city, you need to come up with something, or we're real concerned that there will be some state legislation to address this. And so it was basically a knee-jerk reaction. It says, okay, we'll come up with this buffer zone outside of the range versus the military doing the buffer inside the range. And at that time, it started out, again, out south of Welton. Well, there wasn't anybody really out there to object to it because most people living out there either had, you know, large pieces of property, but there wasn't much opposition. I represented a landowner out at the time, and we looked at it and it was like, all right, you know, we could see what was coming down the pike. That's why it got adopted. How it flipped over to mountain to this side of the range has always been the mystery to me because there was that scenario on the other side of Telegraph Pass. I got why it made sense. And that's where most of the operations were being conducted at that time. I've also been in meetings where I've been told that on this side of the range, MCS doesn't do bombing. They do some activities out there, I recognize that, but that's come up as well, is okay, what does the military actually do? And I realize I'm not trying to negate the military's impact on Yuma County. It's just there has to be a trade-off, and I think the trade-off is if there's to be a buffer, it should be on the military side, not on the private side.
Well, I think everybody in the county appreciates the military and the involvement that they have in our community and the you know, the economic benefits that come with that. But I think now we're worried that the state might do something if we don't find a way to allow more affordable housing to be built. Because the pressure today is that we've got to find a way to lower the cost of housing so that people who work in Arizona can buy Arizona homes. So I'm not sure that 1 acre parcels is the right way to do it. By the time you put wells and septic tanks in, it gets very expensive, and I'm not sure that's going to do much for affordable housing. But trying to find a way to rethink the buffer zone to something that could even be smaller than 1 acre housing is something I think that needs to be accomplished someday, so that we can find ways before the state starts telling us we have to let everybody start building a house in their backyards and do all of those things that was talked about in Texas, where you've got lot sizes that are 1,400 square feet. But there's, of course, you've seen, I'm sure, there's considerable opposition to this because it is out of character for the area, or the public feels that it's out of character.
Well, I understand that part of the discussion, and I saw a number of emails just before this hearing and I realized there are some neighbors here. Their concerns aren't going to be as much probably what I talked about on the range. It's more about their lifestyle and so forth. And, you know, we always have that problem in Yuma County is where we get a piece of property, a large piece, this is 50 acres, and you develop, there's always, you know, concern or opposition from the neighbors about, well, that open area is going away. And I recognize that, but that's part of development is we've, you know, I've been on both sides of that doing this, and I can appreciate the concerns, but Yuma County's growing, and there's only so many areas you can really grow here, given the way that this community's set up. I mean, what is it, 85% of our county is owned by either the federal or state government, but the state and federal government will not let loose of any of its lands that make more sense for development. That's the discussion that I think also needs to be had.
That would certainly fit into that discussion of ways to develop more affordable housing, wouldn't it? Any other commissioners have questions of Mr. Olson?
Yeah, I was going to say, we need to kind of return back to what we're looking at here, and I don't feel that doubling the number of houses, you know, a house on 2 acres seems reasonable if you're going to enjoy the country lifestyle as much as on 1 acre, and that area is just so crowded already. I just can't see doubling that number there with all of the other types of mobile home parks and the people walking and all of the other things that they're used to. Two acre parcels for the people who can afford them, because they're not going to put in the wells or the septic tanks. That's all going to fall on the homeowner. You know, as you say, it's not really affordable housing, except for a
Yeah, I've been after that's what I'm trying to figure out the density.
Group.
Commissioner Rosales?
No, I was just trying to make sure, because she said she had a hard time to get in there if she was in the right area, because that area is.
No, well, the S95 is on there, and you can't.
The only access is to County 13.
There's no access
14,
off
right?
of that road. I mean, they could probably do it, but that's why they built an expressway there.
Yeah, it would be off of County 14.
Yeah, and I tried to get on 14. It runs into the main canal, and you cannot get back there right now. I don't know what the access would be to that property.
Any other commissioners have questions of Mr. Olson?
I got a question for staff. How far north then does the buffer berry go on this map here?
2013.
Mr. Chairman, the density that is required by the Barium Goldwater buffer area is within 1 mile, half mile of the, no,
Quarter mile, isn't it?
1 mile of the range. It requires a density of 1 dwelling unit per 2 acres. And the density in place and those restrictions were recommended as part of a study that was done in 2005. It was the Gila Bend Air Force Auxiliary Field Barium Goldwater Range Joint Land Use Study. And that study recommended densities for properties along the north boundary of the range and the west boundary of the range. And that's how those densities were established. The comprehensive plan was amended in around 2007 to put those restrictions into the comprehensive plan.
Yes, Commissioner Reyes.
I have two things. First of all, I don't think it's this commission's position to try to change the Berry Goldwater boundaries. That's not our job. And the second one is, and like Mr. Olson said, we've done a very good job protecting agriculture, but we also need to protect the marine base.
Any other commissioners have questions of Mr. Olson? If not, if we have more questions, we'll call you back up, sir.
Thank you.
Barry, before you go, I'm sorry,
sorry.
sir. Have you thought of doing the 2 acre minimum?
We have, but the problem with it is that gets to be extremely difficult to do, 25 2-acre lots, because you still have to, see, once you get above, and this is probably need to be a little more explanation, is you see the 10-acre 5 splits, you see them all the time. But once you get to above that, that's why nobody's ever went there, because the process of going through a public report in the subdivision, because once you get above 5, you trigger the subdivision requirements, and to do, because in this project, there'd be paved streets, and to do it for 25 lots doesn't pencil out. For 50 lots, we can make it work.
Very good. We will open the public hearing portion of tonight's meeting now and ask if there's anyone in the audience who would like to speak concerning this case. Name and address for the record, sir.
Good afternoon. Antonio Martinez, Marine Corps Air Station Yuma. This is the first time I heard, like, what do we do? That was like, what does the Marine Corps do? Okay, but I think everybody has an idea. There was so many topics on this previous conversation. One of them is actually, we are going through the joint land use plan study that is happening right now. And we're looking at all the areas. And one of the topics mentioned there, and I was surprised because he was there, saying that how much developable land we have within Yuma. And this is a third party doing the study, not us. We're just like a stakeholder as well. They mentioned we have enough land to develop for the next 20 years at least. So they're like, hey, as far as developable land, we're in a good standing. Now, that was one of the questions. Second question was ARS. Which ARS? So right here on the comprehensive plan, says the study was prepared to provide tools to address land use conflicts that might affect the ability of the base to conduct its mission and to ensure land use compatibility around active military reservations as required under Title 28, Chapter 25, Article 7 of the Arizona Revised Statutes. So just throwing this out there. Now, for the land that was developed or the land that was approved from the city within the buffer zone, that land was actually in their general plan amendment. That was approved. It was submitted as a general plan amendment back in 2005, right when this study was in effect or going through. It actually got denied. It was one of those cases where the city and the county were working together and actually going cases together. And then they went through again in 2016, and that's when it actually got approved. So that's the reason why the city felt compelled to actually approve this case, because they already had that as part of the general plan amendment. Now, for everything else, I mean, all the developable land, that's County 13th. So our buffer zone goes up to County 13th. So there's no restriction above that. So if you see a lot of development, high density development, it's because of the same, because there's no restrictions whatsoever. Anything near on on 15th Avenue, right? All those houses that we have next to the range. When people say like, hey, we haven't heard anything from those houses, well, they're not calling them, they're calling me. So I am getting a lot of calls from that area when there's like, hey, we're hearing all these sounds, we're hearing all these explosions, we're hearing all these things. And it's because I was like, ugh. I listened to them, I'm very empathetic. And then I was like, well, you're across the bombing range. I mean, you know, what else is there to say? So, yeah, we're here to protect the range, but I mean, at the same time, I mean, the base is very cognizant of the housing crisis, and that's why we're updating this 1996 joint land use plan, and we're going through it. So that is the right process to look at this land. So we are going through that process. So I think circumventing this by just submitting cases, kind of like the one we had a couple of months ago, where they were trying to actually circumvent, once again, that process and just go in front of the line. I don't think that that works for anybody. It doesn't work for whoever is doing the planning for the county. It doesn't work for whoever is doing the planning for the city or any other municipality. I think we all getting together. That study that we're doing right now, it not only involves the municipalities, we do have developers that were invited because we're trying to keep it as transparent as we can. And by saying we, I mean the third party doing this study and all the stakeholders, trying to listen to everybody.
What is the status of that study now? How far along are you, and when do
We're
you
towards
expect?
the end. By the summer, we should have something workable.
Did you have developers participate?
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. I'm surprised because I know Mr. Olson is part of it as well.
So you get complaints, noise complaints from these houses that are up close to the bombing range. Do those houses actually impede anything that you do, or is it just the complaints that are bothersome?
So if you're familiar with other bases that have going through the BRAC process, going through the closures.
I remember those
So
days. Yeah.
it starts like that. It starts with encroachment. It starts with housing building up all the way up to the perimeter. And then everybody starts making noise, meaning that they start calling their congressmen saying, hey, I'm trying to have a peaceful lifestyle living right next to the bombing range, and the military is not allowing me to. So at the end, that's little by little, that takes a toll on the military installation. So we're trying to, and I'm sure the state thought of this 25 years or 20 years ago when they were looking at, hey, let's try to prevent that now instead of just letting the gates wide open and then just develop all the way up to the range.
What's your take, Tony, on Mr. Olson's claim that all other ranges have the buffer built inside public land as opposed? Do you agree with that?
I do not. I mean, it's like wearing a jacket inside. I don't know what. We're trying to protect something, you know, so it's obviously going to be on the outskirts. We do as much as we can. Like, for example, we have Cannon. Cannon is right there in that corner on where is County 14th and the SR 195. That's our base, our military base. We have drones flying out of there because we have like a little airstrip. It's not like a noise zone because the amount of operations that we do out of there and the type of aircraft doesn't require one. But we still have plenty of things going on right there in that corner. And so that's why I get the county, the law-abiding citizens that got 2-acre lots in that area, you know, like understanding why they, you know, they want their piece as well, because I mean, they got us right across the street.
Any other commissioners have questions of the speaker? If not, sir, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else tonight? Mr. Chairman? Yes. Oh, we have a lot of people to speak tonight. Yes, we had better, we'll do the 3-minute timer. we'll do our best not to be real strict, but we'll let you know when it's about up. So how do they know when timer's almost up? Oh, the little alarm goes off? Okay, listen for the alarm and we'll try to get to everybody. So we'll need your name and address for the record, sir.
Good evening, Tony Villaseñor, 6523 East County 13th and a half. So I'm going to start off by saying peace. That's a big one out there because that division there would bring a lot of traffic, a lot of things to that area. The other thing I wanted to say is laws, standards, regulations, all that is put into place for a reason. And it's something that we don't take into account until something happens. And then once that happens, it's like, okay, that was there for a reason. So it's something that should be taken into account. Because County 14, I live right there on property number 12 on the map. County 14 is the one that has goes to the bombing range. And that's there's a lot of traffic there all the time, especially when they're going in and out. So having that division there would bring traffic there, and you need roads for security, safety, entrances, exits. So it's something to consider. It's a safety hazard. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for sharing with us. Next speaker, come forward. Yes, come forward.
Wait till you get up there.
Got to get to the microphone so it records.
Chuck Wells, 6874 County 13 and a half. In these two blocks, between 13 and 14, 70 and the highway, there's approximately 160 acres. You have about 45 homes, 45 wells, 45 septic tanks. He's talking about bringing in the same amount in a 50-acre parcel. It's just going to saturate the area. In that street, County 13 and a half, right here, this is his way in, I'm sure. That's all dirt. The homes on that road all have horses. They ride them constantly. You can have 100 vehicles traveling through that dirt road. I mean, we moved out there to the counties to be in the county. So we could have livestock, horses, you know. It's just going to devastate the whole neighborhood. It's not why we moved out there. I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on riding a horse with 100 vehicles in your neighborhood now. I mean, and those people probably are not going to be, you know, horse people because they're only on 1 acre. But that's what I have to say.
Thank you for sharing that with us. We appreciate that. Next speaker. Anyone else who would like to speak? Yes, come forward, please.
Hello, my name is Jacqueline Toth. I live on 6775 East County 13 and a half. I'm number 35 on the map. And I'd like to say, I mean, I understand that development is going to happen in Yuma County. That's inevitable. We all have to live somewhere. There's a lot of high-density housing just over the top. The Hall brothers are there, and there's high-density housing. But like Chuck said, and Tony said, that there is a certain lifestyle here that we all enjoy. We would like to keep that okay, and putting an extra, doubling the density of that is a little bit too much. So I mean, 2-acre lots are acceptable, and I think everybody realizes that this will happen at some point. But if we could maintain the rurality of our neighborhood, that would be most appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Next speaker, anyone else? Hi.
Rodriguez, and I'm at 13586 South Avenue 7 1/4 E. It's my first time doing this, and I want to thank you all for your service to our county. I've been living in Yuma for 30 years, and I'm a Marine veteran, and so we do live right there. And I did want to say that I am in agreement with the denial of this rezoning. It would double the wells and the septic and the traffic out there in this area. We did buy out in that area because we do want to have a rural area. So everything that my neighbors have said, I agree with, I understand the gentleman, it was speaking on behalf of South Mesa, when he said that 2-acre lot is not difficult to maintain. It's not, I mean, he said it's difficult to maintain. It is not difficult to maintain, as it will draw only those that would like 2 acres. And we did select this area for a reason. So you're wanting now to rezone a military federal property. United States federal property is what they're wanting to rezone. They're also looking to you guys to make an excuse that, you know, if you guys don't give in to what they want, it's going to cause, it's your fault. And it's not your fault. So we just are grateful that you are going to hear our stand and agree with the other people that have also signed the petitions. Also regarding the location, I was not aware when I purchased this property, but I did receive a United States formal government letter stating that back when it was Luke Air Force Base, there was military munitions that are in all of the ground in that area. And until they come out and investigate, they're warning us, please be careful, don't touch this stuff. So I just want you guys to know also that are all these 50 new residents going to know that stuff? Because I didn't know when I purchased the property. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for sharing with us. How many more speakers do we have? Come on forward.
Evening, my name's Lindsay Carter. Address is 7255 East County 13.5 Street. I actually live right outside this zone. However, we know we're being encroached on as these properties get developed. My concern here is if we make a 1-acre property, our lifestyle, our livelihoods are based off of livestock, raising our kids to have 4-H. That's why we bought this area that we did. If you put a 1-acre property on these, how much livestock are these people probably going to have? They're probably going to fence them in. They're going to grass them up. They're going to be disappointed in what we have. They're changing our lifestyles, which we've had, and the reason we purchased out there. What we have right now going on is the fact that we have Hall homes right north of us. I'm, like I said, 13.5. We have a constant basis. We've had animals hit by vehicles we just had a gentleman pulled over doing 56 on a 25-mile-an-hour zone. And you're going to tell me that when traffic comes through here and they don't have a plan in action like the Halls have it, that we're not going to have issues. People have had horses almost hit, children almost hit because people are flying down our road doing over 70 miles an hour on a constant daily basis. And nothing ever gets done about it. So you add another 50 homes, we're going to have issues. We're going to have a lot of traffic and safety issues, not only for our families, for our livestock, for our livelihood. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
I'm Jose Hernandez. My address is 13616 South Avenue 7.25 East. I've been there for a little over a year, but I'm a California asylee. I was born in Texas, and with the Border Patrol sent me out to California, and I stayed there for 25 years. And as soon as I retired, I got out. And I came here because I wanted to live in an environment like that, a nice rural environment where I have some space, I can have my chickens, I can have things to do what I want to do, not necessarily beyond any kind of measure or anything I'm not supposed to do, but definitely just to have that space around me and have that rural environment. I don't want to Californiaize my neighborhood. That's what that's really going to do for me, is that's going to make it an overpopulated area in an area that shouldn't be. There is not enough infrastructure in place, not to repeat what everybody else has already said. But there's really, most people use to go into that area is Patton, and they either break off left or right, because that's the main paved road that everybody uses to get in and out of there. And if you start having everybody going through that area, it's really hard. To repeat what the last lady said, people drive pretty fast up and down that area. It's not good for the livestock. I have a motorcycle and I have a Mustang, both of which are louder than I probably should be for the area. But I try to drive very slowly through there so I don't get the horses all riled up and rile up the livestock. And that's another concern that I think is very legitimate as well. Once you start having all those people in there, it's going to get louder, and I like the nice, quiet environment. I like being able to sit out at night, smoke a cigar with a glass of bourbon in my backyard, and enjoy the peace and quiet. That's why I left California, and I don't want to see that destroyed by something like this in my neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, sir. Any more speakers? All right, seeing no more speakers, we'll close the public hearing portion of our meeting. We'll come back to the commissioners for discussion and action regarding minor amendment case number 25-02 and rezoning case 25-06.
Chairman Bryant?
Yes.
I'll have to recuse myself. I have a relative that lives adjoining to this property. So,
Let the record show that Commissioner Allen has recused himself as he has a relative that is directly affected by this decision. So he will not participate in discussion or action. Now back to the commissioners for discussion and action. Commissioner Rice.
I'd like to make a motion that we deny both cases 2502.
Just do the first one first, and then we'll do them.
502.
We have a motion by Commissioner Rice. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second by Commissioner McDermott to recommend denial of minor amendment case number 25-02. Is there a discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I think it was unanimous that
No nays.
of the participating members.
I was scared to vote. I have friends that live out there.
There's the honest one among us. Rezoning case number 25-06. Commissioner Rice.
Chairman, I'd like to make the same motion to deny, please.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Commissioner Rice with a second by Commissioner Mosqueda to recommend denial of rezoning case 25-06. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion again was unanimous recommendation of approval. So,
Disapprove, denial.
Denial.
did I say approval?
Yes.
Ouch. The recommendation of denial. Yes, sorry about that. All right, we will move on
All our customers.
Yeah, we did.
to rezone, to text amendment case, item number 10, text amendment case number 25-01. And Richard is our presenter again.
Richard Munguia,
Yes,
Senior Planner.
Yeah.
We've heard this text amendment before, so if you'd like, I can go over it again. Or we can just go straight to the point. Nothing has
How
changed.
many chickens can we have?
6.
Okay.
This will ensure that they're not all roosters.
1 acre or 2 acres?
It's
On 1 acre or 2 acres?
somewhere in here. 1 second.
I'm just kidding with you, Richard.
I only have 2, so I'm okay.
I think there's a.
Mr. Chairman, I think staff doesn't need to read it.
No, I think we're all familiar with it.
Bobby says that, sir, then we know we don't have to.
Yes. So this has been in front of us a couple of times. We've taken a look at this. It's been
Correct.
up to the Board of Supervisors.
Correct. No changes have been suggested.
And no changes have been standard. And tonight would actually be to adopt that text amendment, or
Correct.
recommend adoption of the text amendment.
That's correct.
So we've been through the process a couple of times, and now we're at the final stage. So staff has presented, it is a public hearing.
That is correct.
So we will open the public hearing at this point and ask if there's anyone in the audience here to speak tonight about text amendment case 25-01. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing portion of the meeting and come back to our commissioners for discussion and action.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Van Wy.
I move that we forward text amendment number case number 25-01 as presented by staff.
There is a motion by Commissioner Van Wy with a second by
I'll second that.
Commissioner Mosqueda to recommend approval of text amendment case 25-01 as presented by staff. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thanks staff for all the hard work, bringing this back 3
That
more
was a
times
lot.
for the foul.
Yeah.
They do that so nicely.
That was just foul, wasn't it?
They do that so nicely.
Never seen a Texas man come back so many times.
Right. Item number 11 on tonight's agenda is discussion by commissioners or planning members, planning director of any current events or events they've attended or schedules for future planning commission hearings. Does anyone have anything to discuss tonight or share? If not, we'll move to item number 12. Item number 12 on tonight's agenda is call to the public. This is a time that any public person can stand up and address any topic that you choose. We can't engage you.
Are you
but-
serious?
Put the 3-minute timer out.
Want to make sure my time card goes like all the way up to 7. Antonio Martinez, Marine Corps Station Yuma. Now, I just want to invite you to take a look at what we have so far for the joint land use plan study. The city of Yuma is the one spearheading this, along with the third party, and they do have a site on the city of Yuma website. If you go in there and you look at it, and in information, it has like all the information from all the previous studies done. The 1996, this one, the one for the range, it has a lot of information. Everybody that participated, the reason that was in place, why it was brought up. So I just want to invite you to take a look at it, and if you have any input, also, I mean, we're always looking for people to participate and give us input. And by we, I mean the third party who's actually doing all the work. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to make a statement at this time? If not, we will continue with tonight's agenda, item number 13. We stand adjourned.
People want to go home, dude.